What's good, y'all? We back again with surprisingly another season of The Dragon Prince. I had no idea it was happening this soon, and to make things better, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the previous season, which apparently isn't saying much since it seems like most people didn't really have too nice things to say about season 4, which, I'm gonna be honest, makes me question if I did actually like this season or if I just found it to be more passable after what we got previously, because on one hand, the pacing is still a problem. I mean, our villains basically spend the entire season on a leisurely boat ride, and I'm sure people are getting a bit restless at the lack of screen time that Elvis is getting. But on the other hand, it felt like we were at least moving and doing something meaningful, and it seems like they're setting up a clear endgame by finding a way to kill Elvos, as well as a way to free Rayla's parents. Plus, we got the longer-awaited follow-up talk with Rayla and Amaya, along with the added lore of Blood Elves, which was probably the coolest thing to come out of this series so far. I mean, look at her. She just radiates coolness. But for the life of me, I cannot make myself care about this Sunfire Elf plotline. I guess I'm just waiting to see how this constant power struggle is gonna tie into the overall narrative, but it's probably my least favorite plotline right now. But then comes the greatest plotline for me. Back in my review of season 4, I mentioned how I found Viren to be the most interesting part of the show, and I'm glad they haven't let up on this. I always love getting an inner look at character motivations and their psyche after huge defining moments for them. Pair that with some trippy dream sequence shenanigans, and you get a really amazing scene. It's still so interesting to me to see Viren in such a vulnerable state, just given how strong we know he could be. But side note real quick, are we supposed to take Viren's dreams literally? Cause did someone die and get brought back to life? Or are we supposed to take that as dark magic just pushing his family away? Either way, even with all that going on, Viren still has to face his biggest hurdle yet, child support. But really, this was the only thing about Viren's arc I didn't really like. They spent this whole time building up this whole blood of child thing, only for it to not really be his child. Now, obviously, he's not going to sacrifice Claudia, but maybe she could do it herself since she's been obsessing over it this entire time, or even being tricked into it by Elvos. You know, it just felt like there was more tension there to be had before it was just kind of cut short. And this is pretty much why I can't see Viren dying yet. You know, he spends half the season basically comatose, finally fully rejecting Elvos to his face, all while accepting his death. It's definitely a statement if they want to leave it there, but for as big of a character as he is, and his life being a driving force for a lot of the plot right now, I don't see that happening in such an unceremonious way. So I'm still fully invested in what's going to happen with him and his whole redemption, and I'm really looking forward to that part. Now, while I did enjoy season 5 more than 4, there are still some problems I had with it. The biggest being the entire sequence of events that happened in the library, from giving themselves a time limit of 5 hours or constantly running back to grab things they forgot. It seemed like most of them were just making dumb decisions specifically to create more tension. I guess the writers just wanted a way to get Zubeir out of the plot for a bit so they could move the story in specific ways, but that whole thing was just sloppily done. Plus, if they pull that whole "oh wait, we forgot bait" thing again to try and add more danger, I am going to lose it. At this point, you might as well just leave him at the castle if he does nothing but put people in danger. How many animal mascots do you need to sell merchandise? I mean, come on, it's getting a little crazy right now. Then you have that whole stuff about Ezrin stealing the Glowtoads. He puts the entire mission at risk and almost gets them killed just to save some frogs. And I guess what really made me mad is that no one called him out on risking everything over something so trivial, especially Rayla, considering how she's usually the no-nonsense, stick-to-the-plan person in the group. It almost feels like they don't know what to actually do with Ezra right now. You know, they have this whole storyline about him needing to grow up faster to take his job as king more seriously, but then also constantly having him do childish things like this. And yes, I know he still is a child, but it's getting just a bit too much for me. And all of the stuff like this is starting to grow into what feels like a common sentiment online, that the show is choosing to cater to its younger audience instead of having the themes and circumstances grow along with the viewers. And you know, I can see it. The constant toilet jokes between this season and last, or spending what feels like a crazy amount of time trying to name those glow toads. But I guess the part that I find annoying is that you can clearly see that there is still brilliance in the writing and in the show itself. The scene with Zubeir slowly losing her mind is filled with anguish and desperation as she talks to her dead husband, or the shocking amount of physical and emotional torture that they were put through at the hands of Finnegan, doing what was basically their version of bloodbending and all the more terrifying. But those scenes are standouts for me, not just for what happened, but how they happened. They reach heights that, as far as I'm concerned, haven't been touched since season 3. And this isn't me saying that the show shouldn't be kid-friendly, because this is still obviously aimed at a younger audience, but there are ways to make sure it caters to all ages in an enjoyable way. Like I've said before, this season was definitely an improvement over season 4, plus there are still elements of the story they have up their sleeve to keep me interested in speculating on what could happen next. As long as they keep building on them, constant minor improvements can go a long way for future seasons and recapture that interest plenty of people had early on. So let me know what you thought of this season, if it was better, worse, or about what you expected for season 5, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.